Primed3D allows you to 3D print in any color by mixing between 3 and 5 filaments. But when using black filament to darken down your colors, it can create harsh stripes or inaccurate colors. In this video, I'm testing a method to avoid this, which many of you have asked about, so let's take a look. In its simplest form, Primed3D creates different colors by mixing 3 different filaments, cyan, magenta and yellow, often referred to as CMY, across dithered color layers. You can optionally also include black and/or white filament used to brighten and darken these colors, giving you a wider available palette. The issue is that the black filament is starkly different to the bright cyan, magenta and yellow filaments that you're using, and as a result it doesn't blend so naturally into these layers, often resulting in highly visible black stripes and desaturated colors across the print. In a previous Primed3D update, I added the Vivid Colors option, which if selected when processing would remove the use of any specific filaments in a dithered colored area where the usage of that filament was below a certain percent, effectively sacrificing color accuracy for a cleaner looking print. Whilst that can help, it often just removed all black from a certain area, meaning that the CMY colors weren't darkened at all. A potential solution to this, which I've been meaning to try for a while and many of you have asked about in the comments, is using translucent black filament. This in theory should mean that it will darken those colours down, but because those neighbouring colours are going to be partially visible through the black filament, it will blend much more naturally into those coloured layers. So using this transparent black filament from Sunlu, I ran a number of tests. For this test, I painted a Grogu figure in Primed3D and then saved that as a Primed3D project, so I could then use the exact same painting and setup for each of these test prints. To start with, I painted him using standard opaque black filament, and as you can see, when compared to the colours I'd painted, the black filament has drastically altered the tone of the colours and given him a messy, stripy finish. I also printed it, again from the exact same 3MF export from Primed3D, but using the translucent black filament. This looks significantly cleaner, with more accurate colours and less evident lines. Clearly a stark difference when compared to the one printed with opaque black filament. As a control, I also processed the same Primed3D project, but in just CMY, printing with no black filament at all, so we could then see how much of an impact this translucent black filament is having on these colours. Now, I know this doesn't look super clean with these magenta bands running across him, and that's something I'm addressing later in this video. Other than the eyes obviously not being black, whilst there is a difference here, it's so subtle it may not be showing up that clearly on camera. So I've now added a new translucent black processing option. If this box is ticked when processing, it will increase the amount of black used in dithered areas to 175% of the original amount. This mode isn't available yet, but will be featured in the next beta rollout, hopefully within the next week, and then in a free public version later on. Beta versions of Primed3D are available to all of my Patreon supporters and my YouTube channel members of certain tiers. If you'd like access to these beta versions with unreleased new features, as well as early access to my videos, member exclusive content and more, head to my Patreon via the link below, or hit join below any of my videos. Now, if we take the Grogu printed using translucent black filament that was processed using this new mode, and compare it to the CMY print, whilst still fairly subtle, there is definitely a more apparent darkening of these colours, without looking stripy and messy like we get with the opaque black filament. So translucent black filament can help if you're looking to achieve cleaner, darker colours in CMY printing. However, you can see here that he also has black eyes, and these eyes aren't created using dithered lines, they are solid black. The eyes on the translucent model are obviously a lot less deep than those on the one printed with opaque black. For now, once exported from Primed3D, you can just paint the eyes a different colour in your slicer and assign an opaque black filament to them, whilst keeping the black in the dither lines assigned to a transparent black. However, whilst it requires a little more internal testing before I push it to a beta build, I am adding a feature where if you are using translucent black filament, you can have the areas of solid black exported as a different color to the black in the dithered lines. It'll likely export as something like green to make it easier to differentiate, and when imported into your slicer, you can just assign that color to your opaque black filament. I mentioned earlier about this CMY print having these ugly magenta lines running through it, and I also mentioned about the vivid color mode, which removes trace filaments for cleaner colors. As this mode was initially intended to just reduce the use of black and white filament in chromatic areas, it was only available to be selected when using a filament mode that used black or white filament. I've now added the vivid color mode for CMY printing, and this is the result. The colours come through much bolder and cleaner and don't have those magenta lines running through them. This will be rolling out to all users very soon. More importantly, and many of you may have already noticed this, the current public version of Primed3D, version 0.9.5.1, and its beta counterpart features a major bug, where if you process a model in CMY, it exports the entire thing in pink, resulting in a Grogu being printed like this. As you can see with today's prints, this bug has been completely fixed and will be rolling out with the new public and beta builds hopefully over the next week. Whilst we're talking about using black filament to darken down colours, a common suggestion I get in the comments is why not just have the black filament as a subsurface layer to darken down those surface colours by diffusion. This is a great idea in theory, and it's something I've been looking into since before I first published Primed3D. However, as I've explained in more detail in previous videos, due to current limitations with slicers, it's actually more challenging than it may first seem. But it is something I am actively still looking into, so watch this space. For now, if you like this look, definitely give transparent black filament a try. There's loads to choose from. I found this black one from Sunlu, which they call transparent mist black, to be a nice mix of tone and translucency for this, and it seems to print well with the other dither lines, so I'll pop a link to that in the description. Just as a reminder, if you'd like beta access to Primed3D, as well as early access to my videos, member exclusive content and more, head to my Patreon linked below, where you can support me continuing to bring you 3D printing and maker tech tools, tips, tutorials and more. I really hope you're enjoying Primed3D and my videos, and if you are, please do give this video a like and a hype. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss out on my future updates and videos. Primed3D is very much driven forward by you guys, the maker community, and if you've got any suggestions or requests, please do pop them in the comments below. As always, thanks very much everyone, and until next time, happy printing. A huge thank you to my revolutionaries, my Patreon supporters and channel members. You guys make all of this possible. As I mentioned, there are some big Primed3D updates on the way, so keep an eye out for them. But for now, why not pop on one of my other videos to learn something new or just have some fun. Thanks very much everyone, and until next time, happy printing.